Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dokkan Battle video. And today we're going to do something kind of different here. I'm going to talk about what I feel like are my three most favorite teams in the game right now. I actually think these are three of the best teams in the game right now. But remember, this is just my opinion. It's subjective. There are different builds you could do for these teams. But I just kind of want to show you these three teams that I'm absolutely loving. They feel almost unstoppable in most types of content. Also keep in mind there are better teams for different types of content, right? Like the teams I'm going to show you, they're not good for like World Tournament or like other specific events, but I would say just for general use in terms of Dokkan events and hard content, I feel like all these teams do really well, right? So let's go ahead and jump in, and I'm just going to show you the teams, explain my team builds, and talk about the characters a little bit, and then maybe at the end, you guys can comment and let me know what your favorite teams are, if you agree, if you disagree, things like that. So the first team I want to talk about is my team Ui Goku. Now, when the same name update dropped, I did do a video on these guys, so check it out on my channel if you're interested in seeing it. But this team is so ridiculously cohesive once you have the rotation set, and it just like literally feels unstoppable. So the whole idea here is you're running this guy is your leader, so you're also going to have a friend unit running around. So you're going to have one of these guys on each rotations. On one rotation, you just pair up the AGL Ui Goku with the LR STR Ui Goku. Their link set is nearly perfect together. And then you just run the other Ui Goku on rotation with this guy. This guy's fantastic because he is stacking defense, and when he transforms, he gets a 100% chance to dodge on that turn, and then he has a high chance to dodge after that while still stacking his stats, right? So this Ui Goku, after his EZA is busted, these are some of the most ridiculous and overpowered units in the game right now, right? Then we have three floating support. So those of you that haven't ever seen one of my team building videos before, the way I like to run my teams is two main rotations of like DPS attacking units, and then three units that are constantly floating around supporting. So this guy is an excellent support unit. He has 30% for Universal Survival Saga, I believe. Yep. And he stacks defense. So what's great about this guy as a floating support, he's not just going to like instantly get you killed in the third slot in difficult content. If he's even had a couple turns to stack, his defense actually starts to get very respectable, right? Then we have this Tian and Roshi as a support for the team at 40%, and then we have this LR Master Roshi, who is considered to be the best free-to-play unit in the entire game as a floating support. Not to mention, he can throw down a 5 mil attack stat, so he's no slouch in terms of attack. So this is a very offensive and defensive oriented team. The Ui Gokus all have ridiculous high chance to dodge. If you think about it, what is it? This guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy after transforming all have like a high chance to dodge. So like, defense aside, this team can literally just dodge you through content, provided the bosses don't negate dodging. The great thing about this team build is that even bosses that negate dodging, that's usually at the end of a long event where they've all had chances to like build up their passives and stack anyway. So anyways, this is the first team I want to talk about. By the way, I'm not presenting these three teams in any type of order. I'm just telling you right now, these three teams I think are just busted OP, and they are my favorites in the game right now. Next is GT Heroes. To me, what you're looking at right here is like the perfect GT Heroes build. I know it's kind of crazy that like Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta isn't on here. He definitely can be run on here. Like, he's absolutely ridiculous as well, right? Once again, this team kind of meets my needs of having like two main rotations and then some floating support units, right? So I recently just got this guy during, I think, the 350 mil. It was either during Videl or the 350, but I think I got this guy during 350. But before I got this guy, I was using Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. It was just that he was floating around as like another attacker, but he wasn't really supporting the rotation anyway, right? Which is fine. Like, you can build teams like that and just think of it purely offensive, right? So yeah, the general idea is you have this guy floating around supporting, you have this guy floating around supporting, and then you're running Goku. You could run Goku or Vegeta as your leader. It doesn't matter, whichever one you like better. And then the friend could be Goku or Vegeta. It doesn't matter. You pick whichever one. But basically what's going to happen is either my Goku or else the friend unit, which could be Goku or Vegeta. One of them is going to be floating around. And I do, by the way, consider these guys good support floating units because they are Rainbow Orb changing. Even though they're not giving ki or attack or defense directly, Rainbow Orb changing is setting you up for ki basically, so I do consider him like a really good ki support, and he's very, very offensive, right? So very much in the way that LR Master Roshi is a very offensive unit, yet is still supporting the team. I feel like the GT, Goku, and Vegeta kind of do the same there, right? So then it's very obvious. My two rotations are the Super Saiyan 4 EZAs, which they're still one of the best EZAs in the game. They're absolutely ridiculous. And then you run a rotation with Vegeta and this Goku. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, there is not much that this team cannot handle. Basically, if this team is allowed to do the event, in terms of, one, you're allowed to bring in all the units, and two, they're not like nerfing them. So like for example, if you're doing like the epic battle stage and it's like nerfing damage of super units, yeah, like this team isn't going to get it done. So as long as it's an event that this team can take on without being nerfed in any way to like their stats or what they can do, like I don't see any event that this team can't beat. Like this team is absolutely ridiculous. I've even done runs with this team of like the God event or events like it that are meant to be like very difficult if you don't have type advantage. This team can get by like type neutral with a lot of these units, and part of it is it's so offensive that you can defeat the events before the bosses can get to you. So this team is absolutely crazy. During 350, I was able to finish the rainbow on the Goku and Vegeta. Very happy. So actually, my whole team is rainbowed, except this guy, which is 55%, because I finally just got my first copy of him. But if I put my Ink Gogeta in here, this team could be fully rainbowed, because my Ink Gogeta is rainbowed, right? So GT Heroes, I think a lot of people would agree it's one of the most busted, most fun teams in the game. The thing that's even crazy is that the LR Super Saiyan 4s, like, they're still pretty good, but at some point they're going to get an EZA. So with the same name update, you could just build this team. So another build I've done with this team is I've just done 2 Super Saiyan 4 rotations. So like put the 2 EZA Goku and Vegetas here that you see. So like you run this guy and this guy in rotation, and then you can do another rotation with the LRs, and then you can just float these guys as like rainbow key bombs. Or you could put one of these guys, you know, because you're going to have 2 of them, right? Because one's going to be the leader and one's going to be the friend unit. So you could do 2 of these guys as like key bombs in slot 3, and then you could have like this guy floating around or this guy floating around. So that team, once the LR Super Saiyan 4s get EZAs, that could be really busted. Like, this team's only going to get better. And the thing that's really, really crazy about it is this team is so good as it is, but it's also still a very limited roster. So the roster's going to grow, which is like kind of the crazy thing to think about with GT Heroes, right? All right, and then finally, let's go to team number 3. And I would say that with the 350 million download celebration, this team has gotten a huge buff, and these units are just crazy. Now, I would say there are a lot of different builds you could do for this team, but a lot of people would want to run like this guy's the leader, right? He's the Sworn Enemies Planet Namek leader, which you can do. I would say whatever team build you do with this guy would be right up there with this team, right? The only reason I didn't want to run this guy as the leader, there's a couple things. I really want to run this guy, and this guy isn't on Sworn Enemies. If we look here, oh no, he is on Sworn Enemies, so you could run this guy on that build actually, so that would be fine. But the main reason I actually like running this cooler is because this team is filled with a bunch of offensive units, and this cooler is a leader that is also a support unit. So the way I would run this team is have this cooler and the friend cooler is kind of like floating supports, right? You could run cooler on the rotation because he actually, cooler links really well with this guy or this guy. So you could decide how you want to run it. You could run it with maybe less floating supports and have one rotation with like this guy in cooler or this guy in cooler. Or what you could do is, the way I think I would run this is this guy actually links really well with this guy. The only issue is that the physical Frieza doesn't have big bad bosses, but you could have this guy floating and you would have 2 of these coolers floating around and they have big bad bosses. So as long as you put this Frieza in slot 2, you would get big bad bosses with the benefit of this guy in slot 1 stacking defense and getting like very, very well linked up. Like, that could be a very, very good setup, right? So I would run a rotation. Like I said, you could do physical Frieza with the AGL LR. Then what you could do is you could actually do a rotation with this Frieza and this Frieza if you're doing like a longer event, because they're both the same name, but you're only going to have to put up with that for one turn. And then basically once this guy starts transforming, he links up actually really well with this guy. And this guy does really well as like a slot 1 unit in terms of like getting key and things like that, especially if you're going against super class. You could also have this guy like running around as a floating, just to have him as like kind of an okay like attacking unit, right? But this guy I would say is one of the better free-to-play units in the game for sure. Before LR Master Roshi showed up, this guy was considered to be the best free-to-play unit in the game. Like, this guy's putting up, like, 7-8 million attack stats. Like, he's pretty wild. So, this, like, Terrifying Conqueror's transformation boost, like, Frieza build is absolutely bananas. And there are so many ways you can go with it, right? Because, like, this guy's good enough to run on rotation, so if you wanted to, you could put him on rotation with the LR. Then you could do, like, this guy maybe on rotation with this guy, and then you could still float the 2 coolers and float this guy, right? I just feel like this team is so good because it's got the floating support if you want it. They're all, like, every unit on this team, they link well enough that it really doesn't matter what rotation they give you. Like, you're going to be getting tons of links, and this is the only guy on the team without big bad bosses. So no matter what, you will have the option to link up big bad bosses, and this team just wrecks house and does a ton of damage, right? Now, like I said, you could do this guy as a leader and have a more offensive-based Sworn Enemies build. You just wouldn't have as much floating support, which is fine, because, oh yeah, that was it. So earlier when I mentioned that I thought this guy wasn't on Sworn Enemies, he is. He wasn't the issue. It was that this cooler is not on Sworn Enemies. If we look here, I'm pretty sure he's the one that was not. Yeah, this is the guy I was thinking of. He's not on Sworn Enemies, and I really love having this guy around as a support, and when he transforms, he's really, really good. But you totally could get away, like, doing a build with him, and then instead of cooler, just put in some other busted Frieza unit, right? You've got the golden Friezas that are all very defensively oriented, like, just slot one of them in and you're good to go. Even if you use the AGL one, like, he's not good offensively, but he can't be touched. He can't be hurt. So, like, he's never a bad unit to put in, right? So, anyways, guys, let me know what you think of my top 3 all-time favorite teams right now in the game of Dokkan. Let me know if you agree with these teams, if you like the team builds. If you have the units, I would say try these team builds, see if you like them. Let me know who your favorite teams are. Let me know what your team builds are. If you guys in general want help with team building or want advice on the game, feel free to join my Discord. I've got it linked in the description below. We are building up quite a good community in there. And I will answer your questions personally. It might not be like the moment you post the question, but I tend to respond to everyone. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.